Our second speaker is Kukua Manful. As you can see, if I'm sure you can see on screen, Kukua Manful is a trained architect and researcher who creates studies and documents architecture in Africa. Through her Accra Archive project, she's working to digitize endangered historical architectural material and building an archive of Ghanaian architecture. She also curates, and correct me if I'm wrong, Adan Sisam, an architecture collective that documents and disseminates histories of Ghanaian architecture. Her current research towards a PhD at the SOAS, School of African or Oriental and African Studies, University of London, examines the sociopolitics of West African nation building and citizenship through a study of the architecture of educational institutions. She holds master's and BSc architecture degrees from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology and an MSc in African Studies from the University of Oxford. So I present to you Kukua Manful. Yeah.
Thank you, Baba.
Yeah.
Before I begin, can I share my screen?
Yes, over to you.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah, so before I begin, I just wanted to say that as a young architecture student, I really benefited from the work that ArcNet and Aga Khan did. So I didn't think I'd get a chance to say thank you, but since I'm here and you're here, I'm gonna say thank you. So yeah, thanks again for the invitation. And I'm going to speak about the work we are doing at the BEA, which is Building Early Accra project, based in Ghana, around digitizing endangered architectural material. So this is a photo I took in 2015 in Accra. Prior to taking this photo, I had been traveling around Accra and in Kumasi, trying to locate and speak to oldest building design professionals like architects, like draftsmen, builders that I could find. Because in much of the literature about architecture and building industry in Ghana and in Africa, there's not much written, as Baba has alluded to, about indigenous African practitioners. Sorts of practitioners that fall this weird amorphous period between what we think of as pre-colonial and post-colonial, who were peers. And yet I was certain that there had to be architects and designers because there were buildings from that time period all around the country. And there was also a gap regarding the development and the origins of the development of the architecture profession in Ghana. We're introduced to fully realized professionals with their work and with legal articles in the Constitution. We know about the colonial architects and the public works departments, but again, a gap with indigenous professionals. So it was in looking to fill this gap and solve some of these puzzles that I end up in this room, old, dusty, pest-infested, right near the Atlantic Ocean in Jamestown in Accra, if any of you know there. It turned out to be an amazing resource for me. So what you're looking at are building permit applications, which were submitted to the colonial government from as early as 1894. And these building applications will consist of an application form as well as drawings. And the very old drawings are just simple outlines and labeled. And this, looking through these drawings, just helped me write my dissertation about the building profession and indigenous building design professionals in the country. But a lot of these documents, as you can see, were in a bad state. And even as I was touching some of them, they were disintegrating right in my hands. And I soon began to realize that it was very possible that after I left, no other person would be able to come and use this and access this and explore histories and feel that thrill that I felt when I discovered these documents. So that's when I decided that I needed to do something about it. So with advice from my then supervisor, Prof. Jan Georg Deutsch of blessed memory, I applied for and received a grant from the British Library's Endangered Archives program. And here I have to mention I also received valuable mentorship from Professors Ola Uduku, Ian Jackson, Wale Adebanwi, and together with colleagues at the Public Records and Archives Administration Department of Ghana, and at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, which is the institution that inherited these archives from the colonial government, I put together this application and I was awarded a grant. And this is what we're doing now with this award. We're digitizing this collection of architectural and related administrative records, some of which were created in 1894, which is when the British colonial government started the Accra Town Council. So we have a core team of 3 people, myself as a principal investigator, and Lois and Elton, who you see on your top left. Sorry if I'm saying the wrong direction. The smiley picture. We do sort of the day-to-day work there. And we have partners from the AMA, from the Central University in Accra, from Pratt, and we together are doing this Building Early Accra project. So here's how we do our digitization work. So first we extract the material, which is very hot, sweaty, sometimes scary work when we encounter rats and the like. And wearing these hazmat suits and masks before it became Corona fashion. And then we read the documents to prepare for imaging. We remove the rusty clips, other debris, sometimes cockroach legs, and sort the documents roughly into dates of application or dates of production. And from there, we digitize and catalog them. So for each image, for each photograph we take of the material, we record the names of the creators, just very detailed metadata of each of the things, the materials, so other people can use them more easily. But after digitizing, also very important to us is sharing this work and generating interest and care for endangered architectural heritage and material. So social media is great for that. We have our Instagram and our Twitter profiles, but we also have our websites in which we have blog posts and stories of the processes of us digitizing, but also the things we are coming across in the archive. Our main output is the digital archive, which after our first year, we hope will contain tens of thousands of images of these endangered documents, and will be openly accessible to the public. We also have planned public exhibitions, presentations, workshops, and publications, just to drive interest, to just show what is in this archive and what this archive can tell us about our history. Thank you. Here's where you can find us online.
Oh, thank you so much, Koa, for that presentation. I mean, a lot of similar stories across Africa, especially when it comes to documentation. Do we have questions, inquiries, or comments for Kokowa, please? Anyone, you could raise your hand. Olajide, you can go ahead.
Okay. Good day, everyone. Thank you, Kokowa, for your presentation. It's really, really good. I wanted to ask, I can see the detailed quality of the work that was put into. And since it's particularly about digitization of the work, how did you guys work to, I mean, what happens to these archives or these files after it's been digitized, and what's the plan to I mean, so to speak, manage it.
Mm.
And especially in situations where funding or grants may not be possible later towards management. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question, Olajide. Yeah, you're right. So this grant from the British Library is only for digitization. And so after imaging, they're not really concerned what happens to the material, but we care what happens to it, because I think there's something in having access to the physical records and having them there. So which is why our partnerships with the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, who is sort of the inheritor of the archive, and the state agency concerned with archives, which is the Public Records Department, was so important to us. So our agreement is that after completion of the projects, the material is going to be put in the Public Records and Archives Administration, the National Central Archive in Accra. So which is why we take such great care with the cleaning and using these really, really soft brushes to clean them and everything, to keep them in the state and preserve them so that they can be kept in the purpose-built facilities at the Public Records Department.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Do we have any other questions? Any other questions, quickly? You can use the raise hand button. It's just, okay, Adeposi Adeogun, please, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, just a quick one. I wanted to know how you catalog the information, because it seems like it's a vast range of.
Adeposi, I think.
The last part.
Hello. I think Adeposi has a challenge with the connection. Adeposi, are you still there? Okay.
Yeah, I think I heard something about how.
So how do you? What is the? Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
No,
Yes,
we
I'm
missed
here.
the bunch of what you said. I think we lost.
Yeah, maybe you can
I would
type
just,
it in the chat.
Oh, yeah,
there you
that's
go.
what I heard. Yeah, yeah, that's the part I heard. So they're listing guidelines from the Endangered Archives Project, because one of the repositories is, for the digital archive, is going to be the British Library. Some of the information we collect is the name of the person making the application, because like I said, a lot of these documents are building permit applications. So the name of the person making the application, the location, the date. We also describe the physical document. So a folder plus 3 documents inside, for instance, a folder plus 3 documents, plus a note, plus an architectural drawing on this sized paper. So we give physical descriptions of the document and then also catalog what is on it, but not, so in the digitization, we have an image, but what we don't do is to try and make like a sort of like kind of PDF copyable version of it. Like you can't go and select the words inside. You have an image, but and then you have a description of what you're seeing in the image. I hope this answers the question.
We have a question from Susan Babai.
Hi, thank you so very much. First of all, your first photograph of that archive should be given an award for photography. It's a fantastic picture. I wondered, this is an amazing work and it has huge potential obviously embedded in there. I wonder, what do you anticipate in terms of what can be learned in a perhaps more interpretive way, if you will, about history from this project that you're undertaking? I know it's a big question, but I wonder if you have some plots for yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I do, because like I said, I used it, the first time I encountered this was using it to write my MSc dissertation on architecture in Ghana. So one of the interpretations I got to it, and which sort of like answers or goes to Baba's point about the anonymity, was this, and using this in combination with other sources like oral histories, was just, it wasn't a thing for there to be an architect, a person who would sign their name in this part of Ghana and now what is Togo that I was looking at. There were clans and communities of building that did the work together. So when some of these people became sort of professionalized in a way under the colonial government, and some of this continued until a group of them started taking correspondence courses, and you can see, looking at the drawings, like you start getting to the 20s and the 30s, and before you start seeing signatures. Before that, the only signatures you see are from the European architects who make the plans of the drawing, or the Public Works Department drawings. But everything that comes with a name of a native Gold Coaster and an African usually wouldn't have a name or a signature. But this starts changing in the 30s and the 40s and going on. So that's one of the stories it tells. Another story it tells also is in modern day Ghana, for various reasons, it's almost told as if women do not own property and land in Ghana. But looking at these documents from the past, the people who are submitting these applications, like I did a cursory count of some of the years and the people submitting applications, and of course we know it's not the entire truth, but there's so many women who are the landlords and the landowners at this time in history. So it makes me have questions and more puzzles, like what happened, how did we come from there to here currently? Yeah.
Thank you.
There's another question in the chat about after the extraction process, how is the structure building being preserved or reused?
Yeah, great question. This is the next project that I'm trying not to carry on because I have to finish my PhD. But yeah, there's no funding for it. The government doesn't have either the funds or the will to commit to preserving it, because the building itself is a historical building. It was built from various accounts. It was built in the early 1900s, but it's like has gaping holes and things, and there's this sort of ambivalence to colonial buildings in Ghana, which I get because it's a part of history that people don't want to remember. But it's also this historical building that has seen so much and so much has happened in. So that's one of the projects I'm toying with, is to restore the actual building. But I'm trying to talk myself out of it, at least until I submit my PhD.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I think we're done with the questions, at least for this time, before we go to. Okay, I think we have comments from Ama Edo and Olumide. Right? I think, yeah. Okay. So it says Ama Edo says fantastic project.
Oh yeah, I'd like to hear more. Yeah, thanks for the question, Ama. My honest but diplomatic answer is really difficult, and I've also learned a lot about the grant process in doing this. There's a culture of sort of big projects coming with huge budgets and people getting very well compensated. And which means when I have gone and tried to get things done, people think I have the same kind of big money, but like with the grant, I'm not even paid. So it's like my flights are covered, but that's it. So it's hard to go to people who want to be paid certain money to go and open this door and stuff. It's really hard, but the good thing is because I started in 2015, I made friends and people know me, and I go and I talk to people, and I'm sort of embedded in some of the communities there. So even though it's hard, people now understand what is happening and are more willing to help. But yeah, I can't lie. It's difficult sometimes to get things done working with state authorities just because of the history of projects like this in Ghana. I think I see another question. The images will be deposited with the British Library. Yeah, so yes, a copy. So because they are the funders, they've asked for one hard drive with all the images. So one set will be with the British Library, another set will be with the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, another set with the Public Records and Archives Administration Department. And we have a website, and I'm going to have the documents there for as long as I can pay the website administration fees.
But I think the more pertinent question, I think that's my former lecturer at the University of Lagos, I believe. And she says, if this is the case, how can Africa's citizens begin to appreciate and take ownership of materials that tell the story of various journeys to nationhood? I mean, it's a much. I mean, it's a big question, but you can just take it.
Yeah, it is a big question, but how? So from working on this project, one thing I realized is that people who live and have intimate histories with this building take more ownership and pride in it than I previously thought or assumed. So I think just from my conversations with people and my work with people, but that the best way is for people who have access or can be able to get access to work with the communities who are already trying to preserve and record these stories when we come across them. And so I'm glad to be doing this presentation, and I accept to do them whenever I can, because I think people need to hear what these things can tell us, and what these stories can tell us, and what we can get from the archives, and why we even preserve our archives and what they mean. Yeah, this is one thing. Like, I know it's a small answer to this big question, but this is one way I am doing it, and I am trying to do it.
All right. Shall we take the Baba, what's next? Shall we? Is it time for a break? Oh, I think you're muted. Thank you very much for that. That was absolutely fascinating and interesting. I'd actually seen that project because of Bubba pointing me to it, and it's incredible work. So congratulations on that.
So we have thank you, Michael. We have to take the next speaker, I believe. I guess, Michael.
Yeah, but should we take just a 5-minute break, or?
Okay.
We do have one more question, Michael.
Oh, do we?
From the chat, yes. What has been the most challenging aspect of carrying out this exercise, and how would you suggest we go about mainstreaming this in this part of the world?
Just unmute and start video again. I can't isolate like one most challenging part, actually. So the question about the state authorities, that was one of the difficult parts, to just get it done. Even the sort of grant application process was difficult, because usually they give these grants to people who are professors and like already have proper jobs. But here I was a jobless PhD student telling these people to trust me with their £30,000. So that was also difficult, but yeah, so I had to like really go and above and beyond in the application. Another is to getting people to join, or to people with a sort of right mindset, people who are interested and passionate about this stuff on board within the institutions. I know I gave more than one, but these are like the three main things. And how would you suggest we go about mainstreaming this in this part of the world? So one thing I want to try out at some point is because there are other documents I've encountered in other places because of the work that I do, but it's to see what sort of public support from the country looks like. Because you either get 30,000 from the British Library, or you get 30,000 people giving you £1 each. And I think if we can get 30,000 people giving you £1 each, there's also this sense of ownership that comes with it. And I feel like that generates more interest, and that's more sustainable. That's one thing I'd like to explore. Just show people exactly what is there and why it's important. Why is this architectural heritage important? What can it tell us? Why are archives important? And then generate interest around it, and hopefully becomes acceptable to preserve and conserve these things.
وانا معذبني علاش انت يرحم